Welcome to another edition of Substack Live. I greatly appreciate everybody for hanging out with us. As always, make sure to download the Substack app, turn the notifications on, and you can join us any day, anytime that we decide to hit record on one of these videos. Just another great way for us to kind of engage, interact. Once you do jump into the audience here on Substack Live, be sure to ask any questions you'd like. We'll have guests. Sometimes we won't have guests. Sometimes, like today, April 11th, the draft now just a couple weeks away. Sometimes you just see a headline in the news and it's worth discussing. And it's a player that we've written about a couple years ago. I believe we declared TJ Watt the best player in the sport. And now TJ Watt is apparently unhappy in Pittsburgh. I mean, that's the only conclusion that you can draw when a player like TJ Watt takes to Instagram and posts a picture of himself with the peace sign. He's unhappy with his contract situation, clearly, and as he should be, really. When you look at it, his deal is now collecting dust and cobwebs. Look at Spot Track right now. Just pulled up the edge. Myles Garrett obviously is the new standard bearer there at age 29. He's making 40 mil a year after inking that 4-year deal with the Cleveland Browns. He got his money after saying some very unsavory things about those Cleveland Browns. Danielle Hunter, he's just on that. He's got 1 year left on his deal with Houston. He's at 35.6. Max Crosby signed a monster contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. He's at 35.5 per year. Nick Bosa's at 34. Joshua Hines Allen, still getting used to his new name, 28.25. Brian Burns, the Giants marquee acquisition a year ago for that second round pick. He's on a big deal, 28.2. And then there's TJ Watt finally at 28 a year. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Whew. He was 26 years old when he signed the deal. Now he's 30. We've had this discussion before, like how many peak years does an edge rusher have once they kind of get to that age 30? We saw it in TJ Watt's brother JJ. He did not last much longer. His body broke down, just injury after injury, just a litany of things that J.J. Watt was dealing with. T.J. Watt's a little bit of a different player, right? He's not in the interior. He's on the edge. And, I'll share the story here in the show notes as well if you want to check it out. But we kind of got into his craft, how he does his job. It's unlike anybody in the business. I think more than anybody, he's kind of mastered the art of not just pinning his ears back and getting after the quarterback and racking up those numbers and maybe benefiting from somebody inside. I'm thinking back to, Aldon Smith had a couple years where he's just putting up bonkers numbers. Well, he's got Justin Smith kind of crowbarring offensive lineman with his bicep. Stats can be deceiving. TJ Watt's putting up big time stat numbers while picking and choosing his spots and not becoming vulnerable versus the run, while also making a key play, third down, sticking his hand in the air, tipping a ball that leads to an interception. He's that rare player who can take over a game from the defensive line in the fourth quarter when the Steelers need that play. Here's one of the quotes from that story. Him just kind of breaking down when to rush, when to contain. Quote, "It's definitely a humongous challenge. You can't just use your speed on the edge because you fly by the quarterback and it opens up that B gap and the quarterback can escape. It's always a tough situation to figure out if I'm going to gamble here and give it everything I can on a rush, or if I just do the team player thing and speed rush and turn it into a bull rush basically and get my hands up to disrupt the passer. Otherwise, he's going to get out of the pocket." You've got to deal with Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, obviously, all of the best quarterbacks are in the AFC, and he is the antidote. He is that one weapon that you have as a franchise. This has not been a good offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, frankly. It just hasn't. Mike Tomlin's blind spot is the quarterback position. They hang on to Ben Roethlisberger a year too long, and then you drag your feet. You're forced into drafting Kenny Pickett in your own building. You think you've got the familiarity. That ends poorly. You think you can get by on the cheap with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You get what you pay for. It doesn't end well, even though you make the playoffs again. And here they are right now with Mason Rudolph as their starter, Skylar Thompson as their backup, I don't know if Duck Hodges has anything going on. Maybe they bring back the Duck. A Duck Hodges reference, back-to-back podcasts. I'm always good when we can get that in. So they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers a Pittsburgh Steeler? Is it inevitable? I think so, right? It sure seems like that's going to be the case. We're on Aaron Rodgers' time. I thought that Leroy Butler nailed it when we talked to him a couple weeks ago. He called it his conspiracy theory. I don't even know how conspiratorial we have to get with it. He probably doesn't really want to participate in off-season stuff that he doesn't have to. He would like to have control of the offense. That's something that he has desired. Is there some sort of power struggle, maybe a little strong, but figuring out what they're even going to be on offense between what he wants to do with what Arthur Smith wants to do? Who the hell knows? But they seem content to wait and wait and wait. And then how long are the Steelers willing to wait before they just go a different direction? Right? Maybe they just draft Shedeur Sanders. I believe he's reportedly in on a visit. You can do that if you're Pittsburgh. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers' talent level is at the point it was in 2021 when Green Bay was okay being humiliated for 3 months. Let's just call it what it was. You've got your head coach at multiple press conferences essentially begging and pleading and groveling for Aaron Rodgers to return. And he waited until the end of July and then just kind of dragged the Packers through the coals with that epic press conference where he trashed the general manager and said they made mistake after mistake, vet after vet, letting them go. And when really Green Bay was smart, from Ted Thompson to Brian Gutekunst, to let a lot of those players go that Aaron Rodgers mentioned. My point being is Green Bay was okay kind of taking it to the chin because they had an MVP quarterback. Aaron Rodgers still had a lot of football to give. He had the special relationship with Devontae Adams. Do you really think that Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf can conjure that same magic that he had before when he really hasn't been a good quarterback since 2021? The Steelers could reach a breaking point. They could. And if Shedeur Sanders falls, and he could, right? If you're the New York Giants, you covered your bases, you signed a couple quarterbacks, and maybe you just want to get one of those premier guys at the top, Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. The Cleveland Browns, they signed Joe Flacco today. Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. It doesn't get much better than that at the quarterback position, really. I don't think it really does. But anyways, there are bodies on staff for both of those franchises to where they're at least not backed into a corner, needing to take Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is going to be the story of this 2025 NFL draft. He really is. I mean, everything that comes with him, with Deion Sanders, with turning the Colorado football program around, with his game. I mean, the son of Deion didn't run a 40. He's probably terrified of what he would have clocked in at. As a scout told Bob McGinn in his series, he would have bet his whole life salary, I forget the exact quote, on Shedeur Sanders not running a 40-yard dash. He's not very fast. He's not overly athletic. He is very accurate. He did turn a program around. That stuff, it means something. And there's probably a team out there that will buy into that. Is it Pittsburgh? Now, Shedeur Sanders said himself, he knows that the way he talks to these teams, it's going to turn off some people, for sure. But there's some people that could love it, that could love a quarterback coming in with the sideways hat on, chains, cocky, talking about walking into your building, being the dude, and bringing you to the Super Bowl. Like, you've got to have some of that shit to you if you're a quarterback. If you don't, I don't know if I want you as my quarterback. All right, again, be sure to chime in if you'd like with any questions, any thoughts. We'll get into everything here on Substack Live. Max Thompson says, Tyler, love the podcast. What would your 2 or 3 year plan be to get Pittsburgh to escape this endless 10-7 wild card blowout cycle we've been trapped in? Man, Max, that is the million, billion, $1 trillion question. You know, I love so much about Pittsburgh. I've said it a million times. It's a different ecosystem there. You know, Vince Williams kind of put the bug in our ear when we first launched Go Long in 2020 with that story on just the history of the linebacker position and how it has really kind of trickled down from Jack Lambert and those Steel Curtain teams to Greg Lloyd, Levon Kirkland, Chad Brown, those 90s teams, to what Joey Porter and James Harrison. Like it's different, and it's continued on now with TJ Watt. There's just an acceptance that football is a violent game, and you're gonna suffer injuries. You're gonna deliver pain and injuries. Like they kind of own it there in Pittsburgh, which is so refreshing. You've heard me bitch and complain about the direction of the game and the NFL going down to these owners meetings and trying to concoct these BS rules and all of this bureaucracy to try to sell to mom that little Joey should play football because football's safe. Football's not safe, and that's okay. That's why we all tune in. Nobody would give a shit if it was flag football. We watch because these are modern day gladiators doing something we can't even dream of doing. And Pittsburgh realizes that. They own it. It's what makes everything that they've created, from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin, so special. But it's like all of that created this blind spot where they don't, comparatively to these other teams, it's like they don't give a damn about the quarterback position and planning ahead and drafting Jordan Love, knowing it's going to piss off Rodgers and knowing he might be 2-3 years away. Like, there's no future planning at the position. So I'd say it takes some future planning, and maybe they can have the best of both worlds. I mean, it would be a full circle thing, right? If you do sign Aaron Rodgers and you do draft Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck. So maybe that's the plan here, which I wouldn't hate. I would probably have a little more hope in those Steelers if they did both. I don't think that it's going to end well with Rodgers, aside from all of the off the field giving him all the power stuff that we've gotten into. Just on the field, I can't get on board with Leroy as this being a Super Bowl team. But if you do draft somebody and you give them a half of a year to grow, I mean, who is that player? I don't know what to make of this quarterback draft class. I don't necessarily think it's like 2013 and just absolute slop like some folks. I don't know, like in the right system with the right coaching, maybe you can maximize a Jackson Dart, and maybe he has an arm and a skill set that works for you. That'd get me excited if I was a Steeler fan, just having a little bit of hope for the future, and not rush into these things. It's felt awfully rushed and thrifty. I mean, really, you have to kind of plan this thing 2-3 years in advance. But beyond that, I think it kind of comes back to what we wrote on Monday with Terry Fontenot, Michael Penix Jr., the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that has botched the position, no doubt about it, right? Maybe hanging on to Matt Ryan a little too long, similar to Big Ben and the Steelers, thinking that you can build a monster around third-round pick Desmond Ridder. That did not end well. Eventually, deficiencies at the quarterback position come back to bite you. And I'm just thinking of the London game with Atlanta and Jacksonville where Ridder missed Mac Hollins, and now an ex-Bill, and Mac Hollins is just reaming him out, losing his mind. Like, eventually, that's going to come back to bite you if you think that you can reverse engineer offensive football. You need the quarterback or you've got no shot. So then, of course, it wasn't going to end well with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Hey, they got us all excited when they took it to Lou Anarumo and Cincinnati's slipshod defense late in the season. But Russ Wilson was Russ Wilson. It did not work out. I don't know, man. I can't see the Steelers winning in 2025. Not with Joe Burrow back in Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's defense can't be worse. Not with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens returning. But if they do draft a quarterback, if they've got conviction in somebody, I guess that's the point I was trying to get to. Like the Falcons, they just had conviction in Michael Penix. They were blown away by him at every turn. At his pro day, Justin Felder mentioned it earlier this week on the pod, how Raheem Morris is he's on the field and the ball just sailing over his head. It's the sound, it's the sight, it's the smell of a throw like that you just got to buy into it. The Bills had similar stories with Josh Allen, where if you just got a conviction on somebody, just get that quarterback by any means necessary. And Brandon Beane said it himself last year at the Combine. Like, if you give up all kinds of draft capital to get your quarterback, if you hit the quarterback, nobody's going to remember. Nobody's going to care. Do whatever you can to get that guy. And you've got to have a sixth sense for the position, have a feel for the position. And I'm not going to claim that I have that grinding all 22 on this year's class, but there could be somebody hidden in this year's class that is everything the Steelers need, and they've got to hit or they've got no shot. All right, we got time for a couple more here before I've got to run and pick Sonny up from preschool. All right, what do we got? We've got, hang on. All right, King Jing Things says, new subscriber here. Love what I've been seeing so far. With Flacco going to the Browns, it shuts down any Kirk Cousins to Cleveland rumors. That's a good point. Could the Steelers end up trading for Kirk Cousins and then drafting a Shedeur or a Jalen Milroe? Ooh, that would be a nice little twist to the NFL offseason. It might. Hey, it's like we're saying, at some point, the Steelers could tell Aaron Rodgers, we're done waiting. Like, we have to plan for this season. Enough of the darkness retreats and the long walks on the beach. We have to move forward. And I would objectively prefer a Kirk Cousins over an Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how it's going to end for Kirk Cousins. And they have to figure out, like, was his sharp regression last year a result of the elbow and the shoulder and coming off of the Achilles? If so, if he can talk you into that, you can do worse than Kirk Cousins and still kind of plan for the future. Jalen Miller is fascinating. I mean, he's an unreal athlete. Check out what the scouts had to say about him. When it comes to throwing the ball, it's all or nothing, man. Like, he can throw it deep. He can connect on some of those deep balls. And then it's a lot of, skipping stones at the pond. It can be rough for stretches as well. But hey, look, this is why you have to be willing to draft and develop. Jalen Hurts was pretty rough out of college himself. And 3 years into it, he's in the Super Bowl. Now he's a Super Bowl champ. Now he's worth every penny of a contract that was historic at the time he signed it. So you've got to have the conviction. You've got to have the coaching staff that can coach these guys up. All right. I think that's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for popping on to a quick Substack Live. It's going to be fascinating with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember, they also lost Najee Harris. I'm not sure if that's really a colossal loss. It seemed like Jalen Warren was the superior back. He had a lot of punch to him. But maybe running back is a possibility for this team, too. It's a loaded class at running back. This draft, it doesn't really have the A level talent at the very tip top. But I think where the Steelers are picking, like in the middle of the first round, that's a good spot to be. And the Steelers are one of those teams, similar to Atlanta, that's got a hell of a lot to gain in this draft. If they can come away with a running back, maybe to pair with Warren, if they can get a quarterback that you're able to develop for a year or two, and hey, maybe Kirk Cousins is the answer now that the Browns kind of covered their bases with Joe Flacco, which I'm kind of chuckling because remember Myles Garrett, the video he did in-house with the team, where he said he knew what they were going to do at quarterback. He knew the plan, and it had him all excited. Was it Joe Flacco? Is Flacco who he was all psyched about? Apparently so. Apparently so. So, yeah, Browns fans can plan their Super Bowl vacations right now in Santa Clara, California, because Flacco is their long-lost answer. Pittsburgh, we'll see. It's not all lost. Draft a quarterback in the second round. Pay TJ Watt for crying out loud. Pay the man. He may be the best non-quarterback in the sport. I'm not really excited about what the Steelers have going on, but things can change fast, and they've got a lot to gain this draft. Thank you so much for hanging out, everyone. All the stories, podcast features is live at golongtd.com. Have a story up right now for my conversation with Jonah Jackson of the Chicago Bears. He was Ben Johnson's first order of business, and Jonah Jackson got into everything Ben Johnson, everything he believes he can bring the team as that quote-unquote Elmer's glue, and he was even willing to talk Super Bowl to an extent. So that's our tease. Thank you so much, everyone.